This page is a magazine cover promoting Nintendo 64 games. The prominent games featured are The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, and Kirby 64. The Crystal Shards, along with Power Pro 2000 Baseball. Majora's Mask is highlighted as a special pre-release feature, including a quote from Shigeru Miyamoto. There are also strategy guides for Resident Evil 2, Pokemon Gold and Silver, and SimCity 64. The page also mentions a Game Boy section focusing on a Spring Break Game Boy Big Operation, a feature commemorating the start of GB rewritable services, and a catalog of recommended Game Boy titles. The magazine is dated May 2000. This page is the contents page for the magazine, highlighting the featured articles for this issue. Key articles include strategies for The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, Power Pro's Baseball 2000 with player data, and Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. There's a special section called Spring Break GB Big Strategy, covering Game Boy titles like Biohazard 2, Resident Evil 2 GB, and Pokemon Gold and Silver, alongside strategy guides for SimCity 64, and new game flashes for Nushitsuri 64, Legend of the River King 64, and Daikatana on N64. Regular columns and an index of featured games are also listed. This page is an advertisement featuring 2 racing games for the Nintendo 64. Top Gear Rally 2 is advertised, highlighting its realistic driving experience with a course generator that provides randomly changing courses and weather for each play, emphasizing the experience of real survival races. Top Gear Hyperbike is also featured, emphasizing high-speed street racing and off-road jumps, presented as the first on- and off-road bike racing game on the N64, scheduled for release on March 17th. Both games are priced at 6,980 yen. Additionally, a Pokemon Pocket Monsters communication cable for Game Boy is advertised for 1,980 yen and is currently on sale. This article previews The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, for the N64, an action RPG set for release on April 27th. Key features include compatibility with the BH Vibration Pack and a memory expansion option. The game centers around a mystery-solving adventure with Skull Kid, previously seen in Ocarina of Time, and his connection to the mysterious Majora's Mask. Gameplay is influenced by a 3-day cycle, with changing weather and seasons, heavily relying on a central in-game clock. Producer Miyamoto emphasizes the importance of time, introducing new mechanics and character relationships. The game promises a challenging and enjoyable experience that adapts to the player's approach. The next page is about The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. It details the beginning of Link's adventure, stating it starts because of Skull Kid. The story begins months after Ganondorf's defeat in Ocarina of Time. Link is traveling and encounters Skull Kid, who steals Epona and the Ocarina. The story explains that, according to the fairies, the world will end in 3 days. To return to his original world, Link must catch Skull Kid before time runs out. The page then describes how Link is ambushed by Skull Kid in the deep forest and transformed into a Deku Scrub using the power of the mask. It also introduces the Happy Mask Salesman, who appears before Link, who is also searching for Skull Kid and the stolen mask. It ends by questioning if Link will have to cooperate with the Mask Salesman to find Skull Kid. The next page delves into the mysterious world and poses the question, what kind of place is Link's lost world? It notes that while the fairy is similar, the world is different from Hyrule. The page focuses on Romani Ranch, asking, are Malon and Talon sisters and brothers? It describes Romani Ranch as the place where Malon is, and questions why there are both child and adult versions of Malon. The text also wonders where Talon has gone. The page mentions that in Ocarina of Time, at Lon Lon Ranch, Link was raising Epona, his beloved horse, and that Malon is a good singer. The key character section focuses on the ranch sisters, Malon and Romani. It explains that Romani Ranch is the sister ranch to Lon Lon Ranch. Romani is described as mischievous, and the text hints at a minigame related to catching Pose while riding Epona at the ranch, and suggests this is related to the sisters. The page also briefly mentions Dr. Mizumi, making another appearance, suggesting that the sea level is rising, and Link is being told about the sea's unusual changes. Finally, it asks, are the Gerudo pirates? It mentions that Gerudo-like people have been seen in the sea caves, which should have been Geru people, and questions if the Gerudo are now pirates. It ends by asking if this world is the sea, and if Link will fight in the sea. This page is about Tingle from The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. It introduces Tingle as a key character, describing him as a self-proclaimed fairy who dresses in green and carries a map. The text questions if he is a friend or foe to Link, noting his strange appearance and doubtful usefulness, but also mentioning he seems not to be a bad person. It highlights his unique dialogue and actions within the game. The page also mentions that there are 2 Ingo characters from Lon Lon Ranch, and that one helped Ganon in Ocarina of Time, calling him unpleasant. It also touches upon the mystery surrounding the Mask Shop Man and his role in Majora's Mask, and how masks are important in this game, suggesting that this character needs to be checked out. It mentions the Kume and Kotake sisters from the potion shop, and that they appear as old women. This page focuses on the game The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. It highlights how the game world evolves and changes over time, with the actions of Link influencing events and outcomes within the 3-day cycle. The page details events happening in Clocktown during the carnival, referring to it as the Carnival of Time, and mentions rumors about the Goddess of Time. It seems the townspeople are divided on whether to hold the carnival or evacuate due to the impending moonfall. There's a section about a dojo in town where Link can learn sword techniques and actions, described as a facility unique to Clocktown. Another part discusses the Goron tribe's plight, trapped in ice. The text questions if Link's presence is somehow related to the ice situation, suggesting the environment has frozen over. Finally, a key character section introduces a Zora band member, highlighting the Zora Tribe Band, and mentions that the band name is currently unclear, but it's a popular band with a female vocalist. It lists guitar, bass, and drums as instruments, but questions who is playing the keyboard and what role the person on the far left plays. This page delves into The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, exploring the relationship between Link and the Zora Band. It discusses the unusual climate in Zora's domain, similar to the Gorons, and how it impacts the Zora's lives, suggesting potential events related to this. The page highlights the grand concert stage prepared for the Zora Band, and raises the question of a band member's death, hinted at by a Zora holding a guitar. It's suggested that Link might be involved in this band's story. There's a section about Majora's Secret, teasing new events and elements within the game, and another section focusing on the Deku Kingdom and a mysterious monkey, hinting at problems in the kingdom and a potential role for Link. Finally, there's mention of strengthening your sword at the blacksmith, a new gameplay mechanic. Miyamoto's quote on the page mentions that monsters in Majora's Mask will have increased presence and transformations, contributing to a more realistic battle experience with the use of the Memory Expansion Pack. This page focuses on the mask abilities in The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. It highlights how masks are essential for Link's adventure and details the transformation mechanics. The page mentions that basic controls are the same as the previous game, so most people should be able to get used to it quickly. It emphasizes using Z-targeting and fancy sword skills. It talks about Link facing strong enemies and describes fighting against White Wolfos, noting that these enemies from the previous game are also appearing here, but they are even more polished with faster movements and stronger defense. Link's sword is also stated to be powered up. The page further explains Deku Nut Link, describing the Deku Nuts as small and nimble, allowing Link to hide in flowers and fly from there, emphasizing their usefulness in battles and puzzle solving. Action descriptions include jump and spin attack. The page also mentions Fairy Companion Link and Fairy, stating that the fairy this time is not Navi, but a fairy that Link encounters at the opening called Orb. It mentions the fairy's dialogue and the fact that it is a fairy you meet at the start of your adventure. This text explores 2 of Link's transformations in The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, Goron Link and Zora Link. Goron Link, embodying Goron's strength, can roll and punch, but is susceptible to cold. Zora Link, a skilled swimmer, excels in underwater combat, using his fins for attacks, like a spin attack. The game features various minigames, including those themed around Deku Nuts, Gorons, and Zoras, suggesting transformation masks are crucial. Examples include a horse race and archery. The game includes boss battles, one example being an ivy-covered enemy with a sword and unique dance attacks. The narrative unfolds over 3 days, with player choices impacting the game's outcome. This page is a strategy special for 2 games. GQ Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, known internationally as Power Pros Baseball 2000, and Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. The page announces a substantial 36-page strategy guide for Kirby 64. It also details the 7th Dengeki Power Pro Powerful Tournament, for Power Pro's Baseball 2000, outlining the rules for various tournament modes, including a 12-team league, pennant race, and the Japan Series to determine the champion of the new millennium. This page is an advertisement for JIKU Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000 on N64 and Power Pro Kun Pocket 2 on Game Boy. It's promoting a pro tournament for the games where players can submit save data from the success mode in both games. The top section highlights that the Pro Baseball King of Tomorrow is you! And below lists details about the games, including developer Konami, player count, memory, and release dates, and prices in yen. The bottom half details the application process for the tournament and how to send in your saved data. There are also screenshots showing in-game menus and characters from the success mode and Konami Net DX mobile phone connectivity feature for Power Pro games. The advert encourages players to participate in the tournament to become a Power Pro player via Konami Net. This guide details the success mode in Power Pros 2000. Players create a character, choosing background, high school or college, which impacts starting stats and events. Consistent training is key to earning experience points and improving abilities. Evaluation, influenced by communication and teamwork, is vital alongside skill development for professional prospects. Scouts assess players through practice and game performance. More game appearances increase draft chances. The ultimate goal is the draft on November 4th of the third year, where performance dictates draft rankings and team selection. The mode spans 3 in-game years, with events like tournaments and the draft. The guide advises against resetting during gameplay to prevent data loss. This page is all about the training aspects of Powerful Pro Baseball 2000. It breaks down the 10 different training commands available, highlighting practice as the most important for player development and emphasizing that conditioning affects training outcomes. It details different types of training like general practice, stretching, running, and specific pitcher and fielder drills. Injuries during training are also discussed, noting various injury types and their recovery times. The page introduces the shop feature, explaining how buying baseball equipment improves training efficiency and lessens fatigue. It lists various items for sale, such as balls, gloves, bats, and spikes, and explains what each category of equipment enhances in training, like improving pitching, fielding, batting, and running. Finally, it touches on the work command as an alternative to baseball activities. This page dives into the dating and relationship aspects of a baseball game alongside team and player management. It talks about going out on dates, either alone or with a girl, to various locations like the park, amusement park, or even the beach. These outings help improve your player's evaluation and can trigger events. It also introduces 4 potential girlfriends. Rin Momoi, who is a reliable office worker, Masuzu Kazayama, who is a senior office worker who loves drinking, Emi Ri, who works at a snack bar and is a bit flashy, and Ryukyuga Ibita, who is a stylish girl you meet by picking up her contact lens. Developing relationships with these girls involves dates and gifts. The page then shifts to team management, explaining how you can assess your team's abilities and give practice instructions to boost their skills. It also covers individual player data, highlighting the importance of checking player stats, items, and schedules for effective management. Lastly, it touches upon the game's hospital system, where players can be treated for injuries, but it costs money. The system section explains the game's save features, sound settings, and a message skip option to speed up gameplay. Be sure to save often, as interrupting the game mid-play can lead to data loss. This page is all about strategy tips for a baseball game, likely from the Power Pros series, focusing on the success mode, which is a career mode. The guide emphasizes key aspects for player development. It highlights the importance of managing your player's condition, broken down into stamina, motivation, and toughness. It stresses training with a clear goal in mind, recommending focusing on either becoming a top hitter or pitcher rather than spreading skills too thin. For pitchers, learning at least 2 types of changeup pitches is advised. Becoming team captain is beneficial for player growth. The guide also covers negative conditions, like injuries or illness, urging players to treat them quickly at the hospital through in-game events. A significant portion is dedicated to acquiring special abilities, obtainable through experience points or specific events, with lists of desirable abilities for hitters and pitchers. Finally, it points out the importance of initial player stats and starting conditions, noting that some negative conditions are harder to remove later in the game. Screenshots throughout illustrate gameplay screens, training scenarios, and event interactions, typical of the Power Pros experience. This page is all about events in a baseball game, highlighting how they are key to player development. There are three main types of events detailed here: regular events, random events, and going out events. Regular events are predictable and occur at specific times during the game year. Examples include things like deciding whether to buy parents a gift with your first salary in week 4 of year 1, going to a year-end party around week 2 of year 1, and determining draft picks. There are also events such as new employees joining, farewell parties when team members leave, and even the lottery that has a top prize of 1 million yen. Random events, as the name suggests, happen unexpectedly. These can be things like getting direct mail for a god dragonstone, being involved in a traffic accident, finding money, or even encountering strange situations like being tempted by Nekobaba or having hot springs erupt. Lastly, going out events trigger when you use the go out command. These events occur at various locations and can include playing a crane game to get special abilities, seeing girls in swimsuits at the beach, which can even boost your Muramura stat, hanging out in parks, and other outings in different locations like city centers or art museums. This page is a strategy guide focusing on the powerful Busan Company, Limited Company, in JIKYU Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, which was not released internationally. It details how to succeed in the career mode for this company. The guide emphasizes balancing work and baseball, aiming for promotion to department manager, and achieving work quotas. It explains that at Powerful Busan, both baseball skills and work efficiency are crucial. Key points include managing your schedule to complete work tasks promptly, especially before training camp, and how early completion of work can provide advantages in baseball. The guide also touches upon strategies for focusing on baseball even with a demanding workload, highlighting the importance of managing both aspects to achieve success and promotion within the company structure. This page is all about managing a struggling baseball team in a game that was likely not released outside of Japan, focused on turning around a weak and poor company. The page gives advice on how to improve your team's performance and finances. It highlights the importance of keeping business performance on an upward trend by working hard to improve company earnings, which in turn allows for higher-level training menus as assets accumulate. It also emphasizes not forgetting your role as captain and managing teammate evaluations, warning against carelessly choosing managers, which can lead to problems. The page advises against wasteful spending, noting that borrowing money can negatively impact your evaluation. There's a section where you can get advice from Sachi to improve training menus, as well as a feature on creating original drinks as part of the job, involving a doping angle where you create and sell drinks, even being able to consume them yourself. The page suggests this drink creation requires 3 steps: brewing, blending, and combining ingredients. This page is a special feature on the Hunting Consultant mode in JIKYU Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, which can be called Power Pros 2000 in English, even though it was never officially released internationally under that title. It's a guide detailing the ins and outs of this mode, emphasizing its challenging nature, where perfection is key and your strategic skills are put to the test. The mode focuses on nurturing players from the third-tier team to the top, highlighting the importance of rigorous training and team management. It covers essential elements like maintaining first-team status as a condition for player development, seeking advice from experienced figures, and improving team dynamics through evaluations. The guide also advises on purchasing items to boost performance, and humorously points out that only Iri Masato can become your girlfriend in this mode, suggesting players should be realistic about romantic pursuits within the game. The characters are noted for their fat designs, adding a unique visual style to the game. This page is dedicated to basic techniques for JIKYU Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, known as Power Pros Baseball 2000 internationally. It's a guide focused on improving your baseball skills within the game, specifically in pitching and base-stealing defense. The page details several key pitching techniques, emphasizing the importance of player condition and using consecutive pitches to enhance ball speed and movement. It also advises on defending against base stealing by focusing on waste control in-game. Another section highlights the importance of varied pitching rhythm, showing in-game screenshots to illustrate these points. The page also introduces scenario mode and famous scene mode within Power Pros Baseball 2000. It lists various game scenarios featuring different professional Japanese baseball teams like Daiei, Seibu, Chunichi, Orix, Chiba-Lotte, Yokohama, Yakult, Nippon Ham, Osaka Kintetsu, Hiroshima, and Hanshin, each with a star rating indicating the difficulty. These scenarios seem to be preset situations for players to tackle. This page is dedicated to GQ Powerful Pro Baseball 2000, providing special strategy tips. The Attack Edition section details button mashing with the C-up button for faster running during base running. It also explains batting strategies based on player abilities and strike count, suggesting a wider hit zone early in the count and adjusting for special player skills. Runner control instructions are given, like A plus B to stop and B plus up to advance runners, and continuous button press plus CU for stealing second base. The Defense Edition covers fielding techniques, such as quick throws using the C button and defense position locking with the R button. It also introduces the R trigger for middle relay plays and explains the significance of cursor colors in fielding. Further sections cover game modes like League Mode, where you can play with 2 to 6 teams for up to 135 games, and Home Run Derby Mode, which is enhanced from version 6 and involves hitting home runs with 10 balls. Camp Mode is for practicing basic gameplay operations like batting and pitching, while Versus Mode supports 1 to 2 players and uses the latest game data. Arrange Mode lets you edit teams, including teams created in Success Mode and Pennant Mode, which may have some changes from previous installments. Finally, the Sound section mentions settings for real commentary and stereo/monaural sound options, with recommended settings available. This page is all about player data for the baseball game GQ Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, which was not released outside of Japan. Is teaching players how to use the game's data effectively for team management and gameplay strategy. The page highlights team strengths and weaknesses for teams like the Fukuoka Daiei Hawks, Cebu Lions, Oryx Blue Wave, and Chiba Lotte Marines. It gives advice on player roles like starting pitchers, relief pitchers, and closers, and how to build a strong team based on player stats. Each team section has a attention point, for example, noting new foreign players and highly rated rookies. The article emphasizes using player data to understand team dynamics and gain an edge in the game. This page is dedicated to GQ Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, which is Power Pro's Baseball 2000 in English, highlighting team strengths and weaknesses for the N64 baseball game. It features team breakdowns for the Nippon Ham Fighters and Osaka Kintetsu Buffaloes from the Pacific League, and the Chunichi Dragons, Yomiuri Giants, Yokohama Baystars, and Hiroshima Toyo Carp from the Central League. The page delves into each team's strategy, focusing on pitching and batting power, mentioning key players and strategic approaches for each team. For example, it notes the Nippon Ham Fighters are strong with a powerful batting lineup and money to spend, while the Osaka Kintetsu Buffaloes rely on hitting and have a solid pitching lineup outside of star players. The Central League teams also get similar analysis, such as the Chunichi Dragons being strong defensively, the Yomiuri Giants having a powerful lineup, and the Yokohama Baystars having strong home run hitters. The Hiroshima Toyo Carp are noted as having pitching issues, and the Hanshin Tigers are described as having a powerful lineup but still needing improvements. Overall, it's a strategic overview to help players understand team dynamics in Power Pro's Baseball 2000. This page is a game strategy guide focused on Power Pro Kun Pocket 2, a baseball game that was only released in Japan. It highlights a new mode called Reincarnation Mode, explaining how to train a strong A-rank player. The guide is broken down into 3 steps for this mode. Step 1 is about selecting a player, Step 2 is about reincarnating a player using a communication cable, and Step 3 explains that while stats are reset, items, God points, and girlfriends carry over from previous playthroughs. The page introduces various characters including the main character, girlfriend candidates like Anomura and Kazuno Hana, teammates including Banta Daisuke and Mizugi Suguru, Drill Corporation members such as Niniku Takeshi and Sonohara Usamu, and other characters like Mizuno Yuji and Joe. It also mentions returning characters from the original Power Pro Kun Pocket, such as Dr. Diogev and Mr. Yabe. The page aims to provide a character introduction and strategy tips for this game mode. The next page is a strategy guide for Power Pro Kun Pocket 2, a baseball simulation RPG game that was released only in Japan. The page title is Terror Dismissal Ball Team, focusing on how to raise your evaluation to stay on the team. It explains the Uratsuki command and how events trigger based on the number of times you visit locations. The guide details training methods and their effects on player stats, offering recommendations for player types such as power hitters and changeup pitchers. It highlights efficient training strategies, the importance of avoiding injuries, and mentions bonus points for consistent training, as well as God points in training. Screenshots from the game and tables are shown to illustrate training effects. This page is from a Japanese gaming magazine and focuses on tips and strategies for a baseball game on the N64. The article, Strange, Second Army Vanishing, emphasizes that simply winning games is not enough, and that focusing on public reputation is crucial for progression. It advises players to regularly check their public evaluation and improve their standing with teammates to advance to the first team. The page highlights minigames that are essential for team building and player development. It introduces 4 minigames with tips for success. Car Boo Boo, which advises not to crash head-on and notes difficulty increases with more cars. Murder Stag Beetle, where players are told to utilize the beetle's characteristics and be mindful of direction and dead bodies acting as obstacles. Con Knock, which is described as requiring reflex and warns against consecutive failures as difficulty increases and ball interval shortens. And No Time for Poverty, where packaging is key and getting higher value items quickly is advantageous. A second-year schedule is displayed showing key events throughout the year like the start of the season, training camps, Valentine's Day, player birthdays, contract renewals, and off-season breaks. Check boxes provide additional gameplay insights, explaining that minigame difficulty varies depending on the order they are played, and the game becomes easier if no players are developed, suggesting difficulty scales with player progression. This page is a feature on the game Power Pro Kun Pocket 2, a baseball game for the Game Boy Color, focusing on strategies for success. The article emphasizes winning matches to become the best team in Japan, the Moglers, and provides gameplay tips for scoring runs. One tip is to aim for hits that land between the outfield and infield, with a low trajectory to avoid outs, while another is to hit fast ground balls, particularly through the third baseman's area, noting that power is important for this strategy. A 3-year schedule outlines the in-game events and progression, including initial training, spring camp, Valentine's Day, matches, and culminating in the Japan series and ending. The page also introduces a bomber battle mode within the professional career aspect, where players engage in battles, possibly mini-games, against a character called Bomber. Notably, the article reveals a War Edition mode, distinct from the usual Success mode. This mode blends war elements with baseball, offering opportunities to acquire items and rare skills. Finally, it mentions a limit of 4 resets per game, advising players to use them strategically, especially in losing matches, as excessive resetting can negatively impact the world's evaluation, which is crucial, particularly in the early stages of the game. This page is an interview with Isao Akata, a developer for JIKU Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, which translates to Practical Powerful Pro Baseball 2000 and was released on the Nintendo 64. The interview focuses on the game's development, highlighting improvements from the PlayStation version. Akata mentions that while the PS and N64 versions might look similar, they are quite different programmatically. The N64 version has readjusted data and success mode balance to be more enjoyable than the PS version. He also talks about refining player abilities and parameters to better reflect individual player personalities and making the game more enjoyable for longer play sessions. The interview also touches on Dogoi Sake, which seems to be a strong liquor or concept related to team power in the game and improving player stats. Screenshots showcase the gameplay interface and player data screens of JIKU Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000. This page is a player interview focusing on the game Power Pro Pocket 2, a baseball simulation game that was released only in Japan. The interview highlights that this sequel has a darker atmosphere compared to the previous game. The developers, Kenji Fujioka, a GB director, and Naoki Nishikawa, a programmer from Konami, mentioned that the game features old jokes and gags that might appeal more to adults and discuss character icons and special abilities. The interview also touches on gameplay tips, mentioning that raising high ability players feels difficult, but is possible, by utilizing N64 version ability values. They suggest thinking of all B-rank players in this game as being equivalent to all A-rank players in previous titles. The interviewees talk about the game's success mode, specifically the Warriors Edition, which they see as key to the game, and discuss the difficulty of romancing female characters like Yumiko and Kasumi, hinting that Kasumi is the most rewarding. There are also sections focusing on romancing the character Yuki, explaining event choices to make her your girlfriend, and about the Propera Gang, describing them as risky but beneficial due to their helpful services like medical checkups. The page includes screenshots from Power Pro Pocket 2, illustrating these gameplay aspects and character interactions. This page is dedicated to Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, offering a guide to understanding everything about the game. It highlights the game's core concept of collecting crystal shards scattered across various planets. The guide explains the game flow, starting from selecting a star, level, on the world map, and progressing through stages to reach boss battles. Screenshots illustrate gameplay and the world map interface. The page emphasizes that Kirby 64 has a unique stage progression system compared to earlier Kirby titles. This page is dedicated to Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, presenting it as a complete encyclopedia. It highlights gameplay modes, various actions Kirby can perform, and secret copy abilities. The page focuses on strategies for levels 13, detailing stage maps, how to get crystals, and boss weaknesses. The page also introduces minigames for multiplayer fun, showcasing techniques to get ahead of friends. It mentions 4 playable characters for Versus mode: Kirby, Waddle Dee, King Dedede, and Adeline. 3 minigames are then detailed. The first is a jump rope race, where you jump over obstacles, using different jump types controlled by buttons A and B. The second is a fruit-catching battle, where players collect falling fruits, and can swap places with opponents using the directional pad and A button, while bombs also fall. The final minigame is a falling fight, where players drop floor tiles with the B button to make opponents fall, aiming to knock them off the stage before falling themselves, emphasizing strategic positioning to avoid being defeated. The next page is a basic guide to controlling Kirby in Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It explains the fundamental actions and controls for players new to the game, as well as introducing the new lift-up mechanic. The page details various actions, such as walking, dashing, jumping, flying, crouching, sliding, dropping through floors, and floating, along with their corresponding button inputs on the N64 controller. It also describes Kirby's attack moves like sucking in enemies, spitting them out, consuming them, and using copy abilities. New actions like lifting up objects and enemies to throw them in different directions, and using an air bullet attack while flying are also showcased. The guide emphasizes mastering the lift-up technique, as it is crucial for progressing in the game. This page is a special feature, focused on Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It's a basic guide to Kirby's copy abilities in the game, explaining the fundamentals and secrets of these powers. It teaches players how to acquire and utilize copy abilities, showcasing 7 of them: Needle, Bomb, Burning, Stone, Ice, Spark, and Cutter. For each ability, there are screenshots demonstrating its use, and instructions on how to perform the moves, including button inputs. The page also covers important tips, like how to inhale enemies to gain abilities, and what to do if Kirby gets damaged while having an ability, which causes him to drop it. This page is all about the copy ability mix in Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It explains that by combining 2 copy abilities, Kirby can create 28 different unique powers. The page highlights that understanding the basics makes it easy to master this system and create powerful attacks. It details several copy ability mixes with screenshots and descriptions. For example, combining Burning and Needle makes Burning Needle, where Kirby shoots fire arrows. Burning and Stone becomes Burning Stone, where Kirby shoots rocks from his head. Burning and Ice becomes Burning Ice, causing steam around Kirby to defeat enemies. Other combinations like Burning and Bomb, Burning and Spark, Cutter and Needle, Cutter and Stone, Cutter and Bomb, Ice and Stone, Ice and Spark and Stone are also shown with their names and brief descriptions of their effects, alongside gameplay screenshots demonstrating each ability. The page mentions that the order you inhale abilities doesn't matter for the combination. It encourages players to experiment with different combinations to find powerful attacks and to help obtain crystals in stages, suggesting this feature is important for both combat and exploration. It also provides a legend explaining symbols used in the descriptions like release, automatic, movement, and jump. This page is a special feature on Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, focusing on the game's copy ability mix system. It details 4 methods to combine copy abilities to create new and powerful attacks. The 4 methods highlighted are: 1. Sucking in 2 enemies at once. This is the basic method. If you have a copy ability and suck in another enemy with a different ability, you can mix them. 2. Bumping into an ability star. If you have a copy ability, you can hit an ability star containing another ability to mix them. 3. Throwing an ability star. Similar to method 2, but you throw the ability star at an enemy to absorb its ability and mix it with your current one. 4. Bumping into an ability star in mid-air. You can lift up an ability star and bump into it in the air to mix abilities. The page then showcases several examples of mixed abilities, demonstrating what combinations create them and their effects. Some examples include Stone Cutter, Ice Ice, Ice Needle, Ice Bomb, Ice Spark, Spark Needle, Spark Bomb, Spark Cutter, Cutter Cutter, and Cutter Bomb. Each ability is illustrated with gameplay screenshots and descriptions of their unique attacks. It emphasizes that mastering ability mixing is key to effectively playing Kirby 64. This page is a strategy guide for Level 1 Popstar from Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It provides tips and instructions for navigating the level, including how to defeat enemies like Waddle Dee and Roomgarter. The guide highlights key items like crystals and explains how to use Kirby's abilities to overcome obstacles. It mentions that this is the first level and good for practicing Kirby's movements. The guide also points out hidden crystals that require bomb abilities to break blocks and provides strategies for defeating enemies by inhaling stars and throwing them back. This strategy guide for Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, details a level with specific challenges. Players should be mindful of the ropeway, ridden with Waddle Dee, to avoid falling. The guide then directs players to a crystal at the valley's bottom, accessible by jumping off the ropeway. The stage culminates in a boss battle against Adalin. To defeat Adalin, the guide suggests 3 strategies: inhaling and spitting back her ice attacks, throwing upwards the eyeballs she drops, and sliding to counter her charges. A bouncy enemy similar to one from a previous stage also appears, which should be inhaled and thrown. It advises attacking the bouncy enemy from behind for safety and using copy abilities. The guide emphasizes the importance of timing and a calm approach to defeat enemies and clear the stage. Screenshots are provided to illustrate the gameplay. This page is a gameplay strategy guide focused on boss battles in Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It details tactics for defeating Wispy Woods and King Dedede. For Wispy Woods, the guide explains how to fight both Wispy Woods and Wispy Jr. in the first half of the battle, emphasizing inhaling and using apples as projectiles to attack. It also highlights the second half of the battle, suggesting players position themselves slightly to the right of the boss and wait for roots to attack with apples. For King Dedede, the guide instructs players to throw back the stars and eyeballs that King Dedede throws as attacks to defeat him, also advising to dodge side to side and be aware of aerial attacks. Additionally, the page contains tips on using the cutter ability to destroy specific blocks and recovering health with a health recovery item. The next page is a strategy guide for Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, focusing on Level 2 called Horo Bitstar. The stage is described as a desert and ruins themed level. The guide offers tips for navigating the level, such as flying near the ceiling to avoid enemies, using enemies to attack other enemies, and how to break 2-colored walls and floors using specific abilities. It also warns about being careful of enemies dropping fireballs from above. The page visually maps out the level, indicating the locations of enemies, crystals, and power-ups, guiding players towards the goal. This page is a walkthrough for Stage 22 of Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. The map visually guides players through the level, highlighting paths and obstacles. Key gameplay elements are pointed out, such as areas where you need to use King Dedede's hammer to break walls and reach crystal shards. The walkthrough provides hints like, the correct path is to the left, and pay attention to the color of the bones, suggesting puzzle elements and enemy weaknesses. It also indicates points where paths converge and areas near the ceiling that might be important. The objective is to navigate the stage, collect crystals, and reach the goal. This Kirby 64 guide focuses on a tower level and the Pix boss fight. The level features a dark room requiring the Spark ability combined with Bomb to reveal a crystal switch. Players are warned about bed trap floors that move, necessitating careful navigation, especially in tight crystal corridors. The Pix boss fight involves a multicolored block enemy. In the first phase, dodging is key as attacks are ineffective. To damage Pix, Kirby must inhale and return projectiles of the same color. The second phase involves dodging Pix or rotating attacks, noting changes in rotation direction. Attacking one block at a time is recommended as Pix weakens with each defeated block. Jumping into Pix's center aids in dodging attacks. This page is a strategy guide for Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It's Level 3 of Ripple Star. The page highlights key gameplay strategies for this water-themed stage, advising players to get used to underwater controls. One section titled Slight Detour Path explains a room with Zebon enemies, green amoeba-like enemies. It suggests defeating enemies while moving upwards, emphasizing that there are 4 Zebons and a crystal nearby. It recommends defeating all enemies near the Zebon before collecting the crystal for safety. Another section, Attack from the Lower Passage, describes a room with tiled floors. It advises copying needle ability to attack from the floor passage. By riding the moving room garter and defeating it, blocks will fall, revealing a crystal. Also, if you defeat the boss Adline in this area with full health, you will get a 1 UP, not a Maxim Tomato. Finally, a section titled, Get the Ability on Map 3 explains how to get a crystal. To get this crystal, you need the Ice Bomb Copy Ability Mix. The Ice and Bomb abilities are held by enemies in the area of the Wavering Bridge. This page is a strategy guide for Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It provides gameplay tips for a specific stage, focusing on navigating river sections, collecting crystals, and defeating enemies. The guide advises players to break walls first when facing the Room Garter boss, and to use the Burning Stone ability. It also highlights the need for well-timed jumps to collect crystals, and warns players not to miss hidden crystals within a waterfall during the river descent section of the level. This page is a strategy guide for a level in Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It provides a walkthrough for Stage 32, titled, Flying is no good, so break the walls. The guide highlights the importance of using Stonecutter ability mix to break walls and obtain crystals in this stage. It mentions that simply flying to reach the crystals is not possible due to the stage design. The guide advises players to use the Stonecutter ability mix by transforming into Rick the Hamster and pressing the A button repeatedly while facing a wall to climb and reach higher areas where the crystals are located. It also gives a tip about a large Room Guardian enemy with a large plate, warning players to jump to avoid it and to throw enemies into the plate to defeat it and get crystals. The guide indicates that both Cutter and Stone abilities can be obtained within the stage to create the Stonecutter mix. It also mentions that a Maxim Tomato health item is available in a hidden block. The page includes level map snippets showing the path and locations of items and enemies. This strategy guide focuses on level 32 of Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It details navigating water currents by utilizing the crystal to avoid being swept away and walking on the water's bottom. The guide also covers efficient lift usage, advising players to defeat enemies before ascending. Players are warned about enemies while descending through holes and encouraged to inhale them if necessary. The guide then provides a boss battle strategy against Acro, an aquatic boss. It recommends using Cutter or Burning abilities. In the first phase, players are advised to inhale and use Zako enemies as projectiles, while avoiding being crushed. The second phase suggests staying safe near the left wall and utilizing inhaled enemies for attacks, with Cutter and Burning abilities remaining effective. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo 64 game, Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It showcases the game's main feature, the Copy Ability Mix, where you can combine 2 abilities to create new and powerful attacks. The ad features Kirby alongside King Deribin and Adalin. It highlights the release date as March 24th, and the retail price of 6,800 yen. The game is described as an action title for 1 to 4 players, and it supports the Rumble Pack and Save functionality. Screenshots depict the colorful and vibrant 3D gameplay and the ability mixing in action, as well as multiplayer minigames. This page is focused on strategy guides for several Nintendo 64 games. It kicks off with a feature on Resident Evil 2, promising complete walkthroughs for both the front and back maps. Next up is Pokemon Gold and Silver, highlighting all the new Pokemon in the game. SimCity 64 is featured with beginner mode strategy points. For fishing fans, there's a section dedicated to Itoi Shigesato's bass fishing, teaching techniques for catching big fish. Finally, the page covers Gauntlet Legends with strategies for the early stages, and Top Gear Hyperbike with championship mode tips. The right side of the page seems to be a section title, The Master of Strategy. This page is a strategy guide for Biohazard 2, known internationally as Resident Evil 2, on the N64. It is a complete walkthrough guide covering both the front and back scenarios, detailed with charts and maps. The page features strategy charts for both Leon and Claire scenarios, outlining room names and key items to acquire and use in each area. For example, in the Leon scenario, it details steps like Shopping Street West Block, A1, and Police Station Front Entrance Hall, A2. It also shows what items to obtain and use in each room, such as the blue card key in Hall 1, F, B1, and the spade key and crank handle in the archive room, B7. A strategy map of the police station is included, spanning multiple floors including 2F, 3F, and B1F. The map is marked with letters and numbers corresponding to the walkthrough chart, showing the locations of key areas within the police station to aid players in navigating the game. A strategy point box advises players to conserve ammunition, especially against zombies, and to consider evasion as a viable tactic. It also hints at hidden files within the game that reveal the truth of the story, encouraging players to explore to find them. This page is a strategy guide for Biohazard 2, also known as Resident Evil 2 in English. It features maps of different locations, including the underground area, factory area, and research lab, specifically levels B1F, 1F, B4F, and B5F. The guide provides pinpoint explanations, such as point K3, which details using anti-B gas that can reduce enemy HP, and point K5, which explains the fingerprint registration system on operation panels that requires both Leon and Claire's fingerprints to open doors. Point L5 discusses the battle against G's fourth form, advising players to defeat G before the research facility explodes, and to utilize the environment to their advantage by attacking when G is within reach after he jumps from the platform above. The guide emphasizes dealing damage consistently and adapting attack strategies as G transforms and becomes faster and more aggressive. This page is a strategy guide chart for the Scenario B, or back scenario, of Resident Evil 2. It appears to detail the route and item locations for both Leon and Claire's back scenarios playthroughs. The chart is organized by areas within the game, like the police station floors 2F, 3F, B1F, and underground areas. It mentions key items found in each location, such as valve handle, blue card key, heart key, spade key, shotgun, grenade launcher, magnum, and handgun parts. The chart also indicates when tyrant encounters occur, marked with T. The bottom part of the page shows map layouts of the police station floors 2F, 3F, B1F, and the underground processing plant, marked with letters A, B, C, D, E, and F, corresponding to the sections in the chart. The next page focuses on Biohazard 2, which we know internationally as Resident Evil 2 on the N64. This is a strategy guide page providing pinpoint solutions for specific challenges in the game. It gives advice on how to get into the power room, point K3, by moving boxes and using lifts. There's also a section detailing how to deal with the Super Tyrant, point 03, explaining that normal weapons are ineffective and a rocket launcher obtained after a minute or inflicting enough damage is necessary to defeat it. Point 04 is about preparing for escape, warning about the appearance of 5 zombie dogs after activating the generator, and emphasizing the need to quickly operate the tunnel gate switch and prepare weapons for the final battle as item boxes become unusable once the train moves. Finally, point 06 covers the final battle with G's fifth form, reminding players about the time limit and advising them to keep their distance and use strong weapons, ideally including the rocket launcher if they still have ammo. Screenshots and a map layout of the game's locations are included to help players navigate these crucial sections. The X-Files in Biohazard, Resident Evil, provide background information on the events of the game. These files are found throughout the game and offer insights into Raccoon City's fall. Key files include Robert's Memorandum, a letter from the shop owner expressing concern over the zombie outbreak, the Testament of a Great Novelist, a will describing the despair caused by the outbreak, the Debit Memo, a police officer's account of the chaos in the East Office, Jill's notebook detailing the escalating crisis, and Jill's report revealing Umbrella's development of biological weapons. Other files include the City Guide, praising Raccoon City as an Umbrella-built city, newspaper reporter's notebook describing the city's quarantine and the airborne nature of the infection, and in-company communication, which discusses APL-14 production and supply chain issues. This page presents various in-game documents and reports from Biohazard 2, known internationally as Resident Evil 2. EX9 is a soldier's diary entry detailing observations of zombies and the need to eliminate them in Raccoon City while working for UBCS under Umbrella. EX10 is Brad's memo, hinting at Brad Vickers' demise in Raccoon City, mentioning a zombie encounter, and being pursued by Nemesis. EX11, Rebecca's report, discusses a mission in the Arklay Mountains, mentioning the discovery of a body, potentially zombie-related, and mentioning Billy and Enrico. EX12, Chris's report, talks about an explosion incident in the director's office and suggests Wesker's involvement. EX13 is an instruction book attributed to Hank, tasking special operatives to retrieve G-virus samples from William Birkin and Umbrella's research facility, emphasizing mission success. EX14 is recruitment information from Umbrella Pharmaceutical, advertising job openings and downplaying the mansion incident to potential employees. EX15, Origin Virus Research, details the discovery of the progenitor virus by Oswell E. Spencer and continued research by James Marcus and later William Birkin into the T-virus. EX16 is the Massachusetts 121 Research Development Report, describing the development of the MA-121 Hunter from the MA-120, noting its potential as a boss enemy in Biohazard 2, and acknowledging its challenging usability despite its power. This page showcases a feature on Pocket Monsters Gold/Silver for the Game Boy. It's advertising the release of the game and highlighting 99 new Pokemon that can be caught. The page displays images of many of these new Pokemon with short descriptions about each one, focusing on their evolution stages, types, and where to find them. It mentions that getting all 99 new Pokemon will complete the Pokédex. The page acts as a guide to these new creatures in the Gold and Silver games, informing players about their characteristics and how to obtain them. This page appears to be showcasing a selection of new Pokemon that you can capture in Pokemon Gold and Silver. Each Pokemon entry includes its name, a picture, and a short description in Japanese that gives a hint or interesting fact about the Pokemon, such as how to evolve them, their type, or where to find them. For example, it mentions Umbreon evolves from Eevee as a dark type, Murkrow covers weaknesses with its flying type, and Pineco can be found by headbutting trees. It also highlights Pokemon like Steelix with its high defense, and Gligar, obtainable through trading from Pokemon Gold. The page title is asking how many new Pokemon the reader has caught, encouraging players to explore and collect these new creatures in the games. This page is about Pokemon evolution conditions and explanations. It details 5 patterns of Pokemon evolution. The first pattern is level up, the most common method, where Pokemon evolve by gaining experience through battles. The second is by using items, where specific items are needed to trigger evolution. The third is trade, where certain Pokemon evolve when traded with another player using a communication cable. The fourth pattern is level up plus, suggesting conditions beyond just leveling up, such as friendship. The fifth is trade plus, indicating trade combined with other conditions, like holding specific items or time of day. Examples of Pokemon for each method are given, such as Onix and Slowpoke for level up, Poliwag using a Water Stone for item evolution, Graveler and Machoke evolving via trade, Zubat evolving into Golbat through an additional condition beyond just level, and Politoed, Espeon, Umbreon, Raikou, Entei, Suicune, and Pichu for trade plus other conditions. The page also highlights Pokemon with multiple evolution types and multiple evolution conditions, giving examples like Tyrogue, Slowpoke, and Poliwag, showcasing different evolution paths based on stats or items. Finally, there is an advertisement for the Pocket Monster Pikachu cable, a Game Boy series dedicated communication cable used to connect Game Boy Color, Game Boy Light, and Game Boy Pocket systems, and is priced at 1,980 yen. This guide provides tips for succeeding in SimCity 64's beginner mode. Key strategies include effective zoning, efficient road placement, and balanced facility development. Point 1. Zoning is critical. Use 6x12 squares for zones and roads, and 3x3 for high-density areas. A 2-to-1. 1 residential, commercial, and industrial zone ratio is recommended, with commercial zones separating residential and industrial areas to control pollution. Point 2. Efficient road placement is crucial, as citizens need roads for movement. Build roads within a 3-square range of residential areas, using 6x12 zones to minimize road length and intersections. Point 3. Build essential facilities like police stations and schools, but avoid overbuilding early on. Delay expensive facilities like zoos until the city has a stable economy. The next page is a strategy guide for SimCity 64, focusing on the initial steps for building a successful city. Step 1. Make the city bigger, outlines the first goal, reaching a population of 2,000 within 10 years. It advises players to start by setting taxes and city ordinances, initially keeping taxes around 7%, but suggesting adjusting to 8% later if needed. The guide recommends starting with more industrial zones than residential or commercial areas to boost development early on. Step 2. What kind of city in the future? quote, shifts the focus to long-term planning. It emphasizes careful zoning of facilities to increase land value and attract residents. Raising land value is a key objective. Parks and police stations are mentioned as effective ways to boost land value in surrounding areas, recommending 6 by 12 block zones. For power generation, gas power plants are suggested for their cost-effectiveness. Finally, the guide stresses careful money management, especially in the early stages when funds are limited, advising against unnecessary spending and to save funds until they exceed $3,000. It promotes strategic development to ensure the city's steady growth. This page is a strategy guide for SimCity 64, offering advice on how to improve citizen life and manage finances in the game during different phases. Step 3 focuses on maintaining financial stability, emphasizing the importance of monitoring the demand indicator to avoid financial difficulties. It advises players to manage taxes and city ordinances, and to connect roads to neighboring towns to increase demand. Step 4 discusses solutions for worsening public order, suggesting the construction of various facilities, particularly entertainment facilities like parks and stadiums, to improve citizen satisfaction once the city's population grows. It also highlights the need to prepare for aging power plants, recommending oil power plants as replacements for aging coal power plants. The page advises players to increase residential, commercial, and industrial zones gradually, and to save funds for building entertainment facilities once income stabilizes. The next page details Step 5 of a guide, which is described as the final step, where previous choices significantly impact the outcome. It focuses on the SimCity 64 game and provides tips for city development. The guide section, Development Across the River Begins, advises starting development on the opposite side of the river, especially in beginner mode. It suggests that until the population reaches 100,000, developing just one side is sufficient. The Don't Forget to Check Each Facility section emphasizes the importance of monitoring facility ranks using the Building Survey tool, specifically for schools, libraries, and hospitals. It recommends building facilities with extra capacity to maintain high ranks. A key point highlighted is that success in this step leads to significant financial rewards. It mentions constructing the mayor's office will trigger a manhunt event about once every 23 years, which can yield between $1,000 and $2,500 upon successful completion. The Manhunt event is mastered. Action offers a detailed strategy for this event, breaking it down into 3 stages: initial movement adjustments, using radar to guide movement, and carefully searching the surroundings without rushing to locate the target person. Finally, Dr. Wright's Bean Knowledge section briefly summarizes prior steps, mentioning airport zoning in Step 2, school construction in Step 3, and large park development in Step 4, to set the stage for this final phase of city building in SimCity 64. This guide provides tips for Shigesato Itoi's Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition on the N64, focusing on bass behavior and fishing strategies. It covers key aspects like understanding bass patterns, identifying good fishing spots near structures, weeds, and boathouses, and adapting to seasonal changes. Early spring favors shallow waters, while summer sees bass move to deeper, shaded areas. The guide recommends using hard lures in spring and autumn, and vertical lures in summer. 5. Optimal fishing times are early mornings and evenings, especially around sunrise and sunset. The guide also suggests experimenting with different times and noting how wind can impact fishing success. Screenshots and cartoon characters are used to illustrate these points in a user-friendly way. This page is a strategy guide for the Nintendo 64 game, Shigesato Itoi's Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition. The page highlights recommended fishing spots and techniques for different skill levels. For beginners at Nonoiki, it advises walking to find good spots, as boat use may be unavailable. The focus is on catching smaller bass of 2,030 centimeters and learning strike timing. For boat fishing at Kakasumi, the guide suggests targeting areas near reeds with rubber jigs and spinnerbaits, especially during autumn when bass are actively feeding around standing reeds. Finally, for experienced anglers aiming for big catches at Kikitako, the use of a depth finder is recommended to efficiently locate fish and target deeper waters around sunken boats and obstacles. This area is presented as a place to catch larger bass. This page is an introduction to the N64 game Gauntlet Legends, focusing on essential basics for new players. It highlights key gameplay elements with tips for success. Firstly, it emphasizes destroying generators, which are locations where enemies spawn, to prevent being overwhelmed. Secondly, it explains that death is a dangerous enemy countered with potions. Thirdly, Players are urged to find obelisks and runestones, which are important items hidden in each stage. Finally, the page stresses choosing a character class wisely, as it significantly impacts the playstyle. The 4 selectable classes at the start are presented: Warrior, Valkyrie, Archer, and Wizard, each with different strengths and playstyles, suggesting players consider their preferred combat approach when making their selection. This guide details strategies for World 1 of Gauntlet Legends 2. In the Valley stage, activate the obelisk by using a switch after the bridge. The Peak stage contains a rune stone behind a differently colored wall on the plateau. The Cliff stage, a hidden area unlocked by collecting 50 coins on a platform within a time limit, rewards the Minotaur character. The Cave stage involves destroying breakable walls to advance. The Cavern stage's runestone is obtained by operating a switch to raise a platform. The Dragon stage, the World 1 boss fight, recommends 3-way attacks and utilizing barriers B+Z for defense. While the boss isn't required to progress, finding the obelisk will progress the player to World 2. Also in the Dragon stage, the Crescent Moon Sword can be found, which will help in World 2 battles. A turbo attack also works well against weaker enemies. The next page is a strategy guide for the N64 game Top Gear Hyperbike. It focuses on, or strategy points, for the championship courses. The page highlights general tips like utilizing nitro effectively by tapping the button instead of holding it down, and specific course strategies for 2 courses, Celtic Coastline and Egyptian Ruins. For Celtic Coastline, the guide emphasizes getting the alphabet letters by using nitro and jumps over stone pillars, and utilizing speed boosts and jumps on the left side of the course, near the bridge, to avoid falling. For Egyptian Ruins, the strategy points are to always go left at the first shortcut, and to aim for the pyramid side passage to get item pickups such as Instant Nitro and Super Nitro. General advice includes always taking shortcuts, as rival cars do not, and using tricks and off-road sections to replenish nitro. It also warns about checkpoint passage being essential, and that running out of points means starting from the beginning of the season in championship mode. This page is a guide to shortcuts in the N64 racing game Top Gear Hyperbike. It details shortcut locations and strategies for 4 different courses, 2 versions of the Swiss Alps, Celtic Coastline, and Florence, Italy. For the Swiss Alps, OFF, it advises using the radar to spot a shortcut right after the start. Celtic Coastline, ON, highlights a shortcut to the right of stone gate-like structures, noting shortcuts are scarce on this track. Florence, Italy, OFF, focuses on obtaining nitro on a hilltop and utilizing a side road at a checkpoint to jump off a cliff and get an alphabet item, which itself is considered a shortcut. Finally, the Swiss Alps, ON, suggests avoiding forced nitro use at the start if unsure, and reveals a shortcut hidden in the shadow of a rock after a signboard, rewarding players with super instant nitro. It also mentions a fork after a checkpoint on this course, where taking the right path leads to alphabet items. The page uses course maps and in-game screenshots to clearly illustrate these shortcut locations and techniques for players. This page is a Spring Break special feature focused on Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. It highlights both NP software and new software selections. The NP software section includes games like Super Mario Bros. DX, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening DX, Mario's Picross, and Game Boy Wars Turbo. New software features titles such as Wario Land 3, Hamster Paradise 2, and even a Detective Conan game. It's all about encouraging gamers to enjoy their Game Boy during the spring holidays. This page is all about the Nintendo Power, or NP, service for Game Boy games at Lawson convenience stores in Japan. It was a service that allowed you to rewrite games onto special GB memory cartridges, offering a cheaper way to play a variety of titles. The page is in a Q&A format, answering common questions about the service, like what you need to use it, just a GB memory cartridge, which costs 2,500 yen, and it's exclusive to Lawson stores. You could rewrite games on this cartridge, and it could hold up to 7 games, depending on their size. You couldn't overwrite games if the cartridge was full, and would need to delete existing software to make space. The page mentions original NP software titles, with the first one being Super Mario DX for Game Boy Color, which was exclusive to the NP service and cost 1,000 yen to rewrite. There are step-by-step instructions on how to use the Loppy machine at Lawson to rewrite games, including inserting the cartridge, selecting software, and getting a ticket to take to the cashier for the rewriting process. This page showcases a selection of Nintendo Power Game Boy action titles. It introduces the appeal of action games playable by anyone, highlighting 5 titles for closer inspection. The page features game spotlights including screenshots and descriptions for titles such as Super Mario Bros. DX, emphasizing its Game Boy Color release with new elements and enhanced graphics. Game Boy Gallery 3 is featured with games like Donkey Kong Jr. and Turtle Bridge, boasting modernized gameplay and a new Iwama mode. Red Arimer from the Ghosts and Goblins series is highlighted for its unique flying action gameplay. Super Mario Land is presented as part of the Sumario series, focusing on underwater submarine stages and shooting elements. Lastly, Kirby's Dream Land 2 is described as heartwarming action featuring Kirby's signature inhale ability and his animal friends Rick, Kine, and Komario, each with unique skills to conquer stages. The page also lists a variety of other Game Boy games and their developers in a table format. This page highlights Spring RPG Great Strategy for Game Boy, presenting a selection of 13 titles, from nostalgic classics to new releases. It introduces 4 featured games in detail. The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening DX, a color remake of the Game Boy classic praised for its puzzle-solving and story. Megami Tensei Gaiden, Last Bible 2, a popular RPG series known for demon fusion and deep stories, enhanced with a conversation system and moon phase effects. Vitamin Kingdom Story, a lighthearted RPG set in a world of food, emphasizing easy controls and fast-paced gameplay. And Aretha 2i, the latest in the Aretha series, focusing on charming characters and a capsule monster system. The page also mentions Demon Fusion in the Megami Tensei series, and a personal strategy section discussing the Aretha series, noting it as a long-running series with entries from I to 2i. A table lists several games including Megami Tensei Gaiden, Last Bible, Dragon Slayer Gaiden, Metabots Kabuto and Kuwagata versions, Bombing Ranger, God Medicine, Monster Digiger, Vitamin Kingdom Story, The Legend of Zelda DX, Aretha, Aretha 2, and Aretha 2i, along with their makers and ratings. Screenshots illustrate gameplay from Zelda DX, Last Bible 2, Vitamin Kingdom Story, and Aretha 2i, showcasing battles, map exploration, and character interactions. This page showcases a selection of Game Boy Spring software, emphasizing puzzle games playable through the PZG system. Featured games include Mario's Picross, where you solve picture puzzles by filling in squares based on number clues. Puzzle Bobble GB is presented as a classic bubble-matching puzzle game with single-player and competitive modes. Dr. Mario is introduced with its virus-eliminating gameplay, highlighting new virus types and a 2-player link mode. Kirby's Kira Kira Kids, a puzzle game where you manipulate blocks of Kirby's friends to collect stars. And Yoshi's Cookie, a cookie-matching puzzle game with up to 4-player compatibility, are also detailed. The page also contains a table listing various PZG titles from Nintendo and other companies. Overall, the page emphasizes the simple and engaging puzzle gameplay offered by these Game Boy titles. This page is showcasing a selection of Game Boy titles perfect for spring break, focusing on different genres like simulation, strategy, and shooting. First up is Game Boy Wars, a strategy game highlighted as a definitive edition. It emphasizes strategic gameplay, where you command units to victory against the computer, featuring over 50 maps and various unit types like infantry, armored cars, helicopters, and planes. Next is Tennis, described as simple yet authentic. It features easy controls, realistic tennis actions, including drop shots and smashes, and 4 difficulty settings to cater to all players. 2-player matches are also possible via cable link. Then there's Umi no Nushitsuri 2, Legend of the River King 2, a fishing RPG where you aim to catch legendary fish. It blends RPG elements, like buying lures and gathering information with timing-based fishing battles. Nemesis 2, known internationally as Gradius 2, The Return of the Hero, is presented as a must-have shooting game for Game Boy, carrying the spirit of the Gradius series. It features double-scrolling, intense boss battles, customizable power-ups, and is beginner-friendly with unlimited continues. Finally, F1 Race is featured as a racing game focused on top speed. It includes 9 races to conquer, time trial and versus modes for up to 4 players, and different car types emphasizing cornering or top speed. This Game Boy game feature section showcases a variety of titles, highlighting the appeal of nostalgic and popular handheld games. The page presents a selection of games across different genres, from card battling and pinball to RPGs and board games. Featured games include Kairu no Tame ni Kain wa Naru, an action RPG with transformation mechanics, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, a strategic card battle game, Namco Gallery Volume 3, a collection of classic arcade games, Kirby's Pinball Land, and Super Momotaro Dentetsu 2, a board game. The page also lists several other games with developer and rating information. The section concludes with a comic strip related to retro gaming and software exchange. The diverse selection aims to provide something for every Game Boy player, acknowledging the vast library of games available on the platform. This page is showcasing the Spring Break GB Big Strategy Part 2 New Software Edition and is highlighting 5 new action games for the Game Boy. First up is Wario Land 3. This game is advertised as having an immortal Wario who can't die and is full of new reactions and actions. It seems to be a puzzle action game where you collect treasures to escape from a mysterious music box. Next we have Rayman. This is described as having beautiful graphics and unique action, specifically designed for the Game Boy Color, with a large 32M capacity. It seems to be about rescuing fairies and defeating the evil Mr. Dark. Then, there's Disney's Tarzan. This game takes place in a vast jungle and is based on the popular Disney anime film. It promises movie-like animation and lots of action, focusing on Tarzan exploring the jungle. Following that is Doraemon Memories of Nobita's Great Adventure. This is a side-scrolling action game where you control Doraemon and Nobita and other familiar characters. The goal is to collect memorial shots by clearing stages with a rank, highlighting famous scenes from the Doraemon series. Finally, there is Cyborg Kuro-chan Devil Revival. This game focuses on destruction and exhilarating action. You play as Cyborg Kuro-chan to rescue his girlfriend Nana-chan and customize Kuro-chan with collected parts. It emphasizes the thrill of destroying everything in your path. This page showcases 4 RPG and SRPG titles. First is Saru Puncher, a training RPG where you become a monkey trainer and aim for the top of the monkey boxing world. You train your monkey through various methods like jump rope and sparring to improve its parameters and learn special moves. Winning matches increases your ranking. Next is Alulu no Buken Mahu no Jewel, an RPG featuring familiar Puyo Puyo characters. In this game, Puyo characters have become cards. You collect Mangusuta stones to enhance these cards used in battles. The story revolves around rescuing the Puyo characters who have turned into cards. Then there's Battle Fishers, a unique fishing battle game set in a school. You play as a student in a fishing school and aim to graduate by winning fishing battles against rivals and the principal, using rhythm action elements in the fishing gameplay. The game features many unique and quirky characters. Finally, Bakuhatsu Renpatsu, Super Beat'em Gekitu, Rising Valkyrie, is an RPG based on the Super Beat'em manga. You customize your B-Daemon with various parts to enhance its performance and create powerful combinations for battles. The game features parts customization and strategic combat. This page showcases upcoming Game Boy software. The first game highlighted is Hamster Paradise 2, Chew, a cute hamster raising simulation. It focuses on caring for hamsters through feeding, cleaning, and playing mini-games to earn money for items. Breeding hamsters is also a feature. It's described as the second in the series, boasting improved hamster animations and increased content. Next is Nakayoshi Pet Series 2 Kawaii Usagi, which translates to Cute Rabbit and is part of the Nakayoshi Pet series. This is another pet simulation game, this time focusing on raising adorable rabbits. It features 3 different breeds of rabbits to care for. Finally, there's Professional Baseball Simulation Pocket Pro Baseball, a realistic baseball simulation game using actual player data. The game aims for authentic baseball gameplay and even mentions using infrared controllers for input. It highlights features such as home runs and great plays having special cut-in scenes. This page presents a new software edition focusing on adventure, AVG, and sports, SPG, games for the Game Boy Color. The first game highlighted is Detective Conan, Kiganjima Hihou Densetsu. Detective Conan, The Legend of the Treasure of Kigen Island, an adventure game emphasizing scenarios and tricks, being a sequel to Karakuri Temple Murder Case. It features Conan as the main character, and the gameplay seems to involve investigation and dialogue. The game includes a detective rank system and character changes, and players who completed the previous game can input a password to carry over their detective rank. The page then introduces 3 sports games. Snowboard Champion is a snowboarding game with 4 race types, aiming to become a champion by defeating rivals with unique skills and improving stats. Trickboarder Grand Prix focuses on trick points and race time in snowboarding, where players use jump stands to perform art tricks and aim for high scores to win the Grand Prix. Finally, Pocket Pro Wrestling Perfect Wrestler is described as an authentic pro wrestling game with realistic moves and dramatic presentation, featuring a champion road mode and supporting link cable battles with friends. The next page is showcasing a selection of new Game Boy games, highlighting titles that blend puzzle and shooting genres, perfect for quick play sessions. First up is Roadrunner, titled Dom Dom Group's Ambition, which is a Game Boy version of the classic puzzle action game. This version adds a story mode, where you rescue animals from an evil organization. You can also edit your own stages. The story mode involves rescuing animals from buildings, and you can raise the rescued animals. Next we have Puzzle Loop, a puzzle game with 3 modes based on the popular arcade game style where you clear jewels by matching 3 or more. It emphasizes chain reactions for high scores. Then there's Macross 7, Aim for the Heart of the Galaxy, a shooting game based on the anime series for Game Boy Color. It uses the power of song in battles, and boss fights are rhythm-based action sequences. Finally, Assault Paparatai, a Game Boy Color game based on a manga, is presented as a shooting game with a variety of 8 minigames. The story mode has 30 stages and lets you choose from 8 characters, each influencing the gameplay. This page showcases 2 Game Boy titles. The first is RPG Tsukuru GB, RPG Maker GB, an RPG creation tool that lets anyone easily make their own RPGs on the Game Boy. It emphasizes its user-friendly design, allowing even beginners to create games and exchange data with friends using a communication cable. The screenshots display the game's interface, including menus and character stats. The second game featured is Metaro Card Robot Battle, Metabots Card Robot Battle, a card game adaptation of the popular Metabots series for the Game Boy. It boasts over 400 types of cards, with familiar parts and characters, highlighting the strategic depth of card battles and combo attacks. The screenshots show card battle gameplay and game interface elements. 4 new Game Boy games are highlighted as part of a Spring GB Big Strategy feature. Pop Music GB, a music game adaptation, features over 20 songs with various genres and offers arcade-style gameplay. Sylvania Melody, Let's Dance with Forest Friends, translates the Sylvania family toy line into a rhythm game with 10 songs. Trade and Battle Card Hero is a strategic card battle game with RPG elements. Lastly, Killer Pachinko Boy CR Monster House brings the popular Pachinko series to the Game Boy, featuring familiar characters and modes. This page of the magazine highlights upcoming Game Boy Color titles. First up is Zoku Zoku Heroes, a role-playing game from Media Factory where you transform into different heroes. Next is Ojyaru Maru, Tsukio ga Ike no Takaramono, a board game-style title based on the anime Ojyaru Maru, where players collect items and aim for the moonlit pond. Magical Chase is featured, marking the Game Boy debut of the classic PC Engine shooting game, promising beautiful graphics. Soul Getter is another RPG, emphasizing its battle scenes in a quarter-view perspective. Puzzle Bobble 4 is announced for release on April 28th, bringing the popular puzzle action to the Game Boy Color, with new endless battle modes. Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle 4 is presented as an action game based on the Looney Tunes character Bugs Bunny, tasking players with finding keys to clear stages. Shin Megami Tensei Devil Children, Black Book and Red Book, is previewed, showcasing its enhanced graphics and Mega 10 atmosphere, focusing on demon negotiation and battles. Perfect Choro Q is the second Game Boy installment in the Choro Q series, a simulation racing game where players customize mini-cars and strategically advance them each turn. Lastly, Doraemon no Quiz Boy is a quiz game aimed at elementary school children, featuring a large volume of questions about sports, Doraemon, and general knowledge. The next page is a preview of the Game Boy game Star Ocean Blue Sphere, the newest installment in the Star Ocean series. This GB version is described as a sequel to the PlayStation title Star Ocean: The Second Story, set 2 years after its events. The article highlights features like special moves and skills, along with item creation, which are said to be enhanced from the PlayStation predecessor. Communication battles are also mentioned as a feature unique to the GB version. The preview introduces Claude C. Kenny, a main character from the previous game, and Rena Lanford, another protagonist, emphasizing her talent and resilience. Screenshots showcase the gameplay, including field screens and battles. The game is an action RPG, and is set to be released in the summer, published by Enix. Genius Creator speaks about the charm of N64 software. Shigeru Miyamoto's N64 Spirit, installment 18, focuses on Diddy Kong Racing, a Rare-developed adventure racing game. Miyamoto, the creator of Mario Kart, is intrigued by Diddy Kong Racing's innovative approach. The game differentiates itself with 3D polygon graphics, unlike Mario Kart 64's 2D sprites, and 3 vehicle types: cars, hovercrafts, and planes. Miyamoto particularly praises Rare's technical skill, highlighting the polygon graphics and adventure elements. These elements include balloon collection to unlock new courses and boss battles. Miyamoto's checkpoints include the impressive polygon graphics, the diverse vehicles offering varied gameplay, especially hovercrafts and planes, and the adventure elements that encourage exploration beyond just racing. Released November 21, 1997, at 6,800 yen, the game's camera and polygon count are suggested to offer a smoother experience compared to other 3D racing games. This page is a beginner's guide to Diddy Kong Racing, with tips for new players to win races. The guide details 3 key points: using homing missiles effectively by collecting 2 balloons, using super dashes for time reduction on dash plates and dash balloons, and strategies for boss battles, which emphasize leading from the start and using dash balloons and invincibility stars. The page also includes an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto about the concept of RCG racing game. Summary methods. Discussing the design philosophy behind Diddy Kong Racing, Miyamoto reflects on how Rare's approach to game summaries and level design is unique and well executed, comparing it to Mario Kart but noting the differences. He touches upon the adventure-like elements within RCG, like exploring courses and collecting items, and the satisfaction of overcoming challenges. He mentions that Rare's skill in creating these kinds of games is evident from their Super Donkey Kong Country days and into Diddy Kong Racing. Finally, there is a prize giveaway for a copy of Diddy Kong Racing, signed by Miyamoto himself. To enter, readers need to send a postcard with their details, impressions of the corner, and questions for Miyamoto. The deadline for entries is March 21st. This page details cheat codes for the N64 version of Resident Evil 2, Biohazard 2, offering exclusive content even for PlayStation players familiar with the original. 3 special modes are unlocked via load screen commands: Fourth Survivor, Tofu Survivor, and Unlimited Ammo. Fourth Survivor puts players in control of Hunk, tasking them to reach the heliport while fighting enemies. Tofu Survivor features Tofu with high health but only a knife, speaking in the Kansai dialect. Unlimited Ammo grants unlimited ammunition for all weapons, even affecting Hunk if used with Fourth Survivor. The page also promotes an upcoming book, Urawaza King 20,000,000 2001 Complete Edition, covering cheat techniques for PS2, N64, and Game Boy games. This page is focused on hidden elements in N64 games, specifically for Biohazard 2, known internationally as Resident Evil 2, and Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, Ukido Keishusha. For Resident Evil 2, the page unveils hidden costumes for Leon, described as sunglasses and leather pants, and Claire, in a combatant style. It also details how to unlock powerful hidden weapons. These weapons include the submachine gun, unlocked by starting in normal mode and reaching the police station without picking up any items. The Gatling gun is obtained by defeating a licker in the police station's blown-out corridor, after not saving even once. Lastly, the rocket launcher is acquired by examining the dead body of a licker and obtaining a special key, then using that key to open a locker in the police station's darkroom, all within 2 hours and 30 minutes in normal mode and achieving an A or S rank. The page then shifts to Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, Ukido Keishusha, and the conditions to unlock hidden wrestlers. It lists various wrestlers and their unlock requirements, which generally involve completing the Royal Road Succession mode using specific wrestlers, winning special matches after completing certain series, or reaching milestones like total use count of wrestlers. These conditions are varied and encourage players to engage deeply with the game's different modes and wrestlers. This page highlights some interesting game secrets and tips. For Nintendo 64, Top Gear Rally 2 is featured, revealing a cheat code using L, up on the D-pad, right on the D-pad, left on the D-pad, L, and L again at the flag scene to unlock all teams and courses. Then, for Pikachu Genki Denshu, it explains a secret about watermelons in the game. Depending on the last digit of the encounter with Pikachu, different things happen when you break a watermelon. If the last digit is 1, you get a giant watermelon. For 0, 2, or 3, you get 5 normal watermelons. And for 4 to 9, you you get the usual watermelon. Moving on to Game Boy, Super Mario Bros. DX has hidden modes unlocked by achieving high scores in the original mode. Reaching 100,000 points unlocks Super Mario Bros. 2 on the mode select screen, and hitting 300,000 points unlocks a television screen option. The page also details an Infinite 1 UP trick in Super Mario Bros. DX, specifically in Stage 31, involving jumping on Koopa Troopas falling from blocks. Lastly, there's a small comic panel which seems unrelated to N64 games, and a comment about how cute Pikachu Genki Daichu is. This page features a collection of game tips and tricks. Starting with GB Meta Fight EX, it provides passwords to start each stage with all items. For N64 Giant Dodoshin 1, there's a tip about setting the console date to January 1st to experience a New Year's Day atmosphere within the game, along with some in-game stats related to New Year's. N64 Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 reveals a secret technique where players can make their wrestler mimic the opponent's taunts by wiggling the 3D stick during an opponent's appeal. Moving to GB Donkey Kong GB, the page highlights a trick to make animal friends appear repeatedly in Donkey Kong Land 2. It explains that once an animal friend is collected, it will reappear if you scroll the screen back and forth, even after taking damage. GB Super Mario Bros. DX unveils a secret in Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, involving collecting coins in stages 12 or similar stages with ceilings. By gathering coins on the ceiling and letting Mario overlap with a small coin, a warp zone will appear. Finally, at the bottom, there's a section about upcoming new games and a call for readers to submit their own Urawaza, secret techniques/cheats, to the magazine for prizes, mentioning titles like Kirby 64 and Power Pro 2000 as expected releases. There are different prize tiers for submitted tips: Doctor Rank, Assistant Rank, Handyman Rank, and Foreman Rank, with varying amounts of toy vouchers for each. This page is an advertisement for Shigesato Itoi's No. 1 Bass Fishing Definitive Edition for the N64. It targets different players, those familiar with the Super Famicom version, those new to fishing games, and those experienced with other fishing games, highlighting the game's depth, realism, and ease of entry. The ad features screenshots and promotes a campaign where players can win original lures by obtaining the Fishing Emperor title in the game. The campaign period runs from March 31st to May 31st, 2000. The page also showcases the cute characters designed by Norio Hikone for the game. This page is an advert for the Japanese Nintendo 64 game Shigesato Itoi's No. 1 Bass Fishing Definitive Edition. It mentions the release date is March 31st, 2000, and the price is 6,800 yen. The game is compatible with the Rumble Pack and the Fishing Controller 64. The image depicts an underwater scene with fish, reflecting the fishing theme of the game. The present palace is offering 14 prizes. N64 game prizes include GQ Powerful Pro Yaku 2000 Baseball, Hoshi no Kirby 64 Kirby, Itoi Shigesato no Batsuri No. 1 Kitaiban Fishing, Dai Katana Action, and Gauntlet Legends Dungeon Crawler. Game Boy prizes are Wario Land 3, Cyborg Kuro-chan, Powerful Pro Kun Pocket 2, Poppin' Music GB, Kawayoshi Pet Series 1, and Battle Fishers. Other prizes are a DVD Ultraman Special Mug Cup, an Ogre Series CD set, and a Pokemon Talking Hanger and Towel set. The page also lists previous winners from the April issue. The next page is an advertisement for a Donkey Kong 64 strategy guidebook. It highlights that this guide covers 101% of the game, featuring maps and charts to help players navigate, and providing a complete walkthrough. It mentions the guide includes details on all 201 golden bananas and character-specific strategies. The page also advertises a Kirby of the Stars 64, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards strategy guidebook, mentioning it has adventure maps and comes with cute Kirby seals. Finally, it advertises a Grand Duel Dark Dungeon Mystery official strategy guide for the Game Boy. This page introduces 2 new games in the New Work Flash section. The top part features cartoonish characters with fishing rods, and the text says, "Let's Fishing!" indicating a fishing game. Below this are 2 game previews. The first is for Legend of the River King 64, in Japanese Nushitsuri 64, Shio Kaze ni Note, showing a screenshot of a large fish caught in a river, and mentions that collecting master fish is key to the game. The second preview is for Daikatana, a first-person shooter, highlighting its suspicious Japanese-style movie-like cutscenes. This page is showcasing the N64 game Nushitsuri 64, a fishing game where players can now fish overseas, specifically in Hawaii. The preview focuses on the opening story, which follows a brother and sister who decide to travel to the South Seas. The brother, Seikiro, receives a letter from his grandfather about legendary fish in Hawaii, and is determined to go there, eventually participating in the Ito fishing competition. The page also highlights the fishing tournament as a challenging aspect of the game, where you can suddenly aim for big catches. Improvements to the collecting aspect of the game are mentioned, making it easier to gather insects and plants. Finally, a minigame called Kakuchiku is introduced, described as an Othello-type game using fishing weights as pieces. This page introduces a new fishing game with a tropical island theme, possibly set in Hawaii, where players can catch tropical fish. A key feature is the ability to choose your own bait. The game also includes animal encounters, and there are sections detailing animal interactions and fishing in Hawaii. Fish like the hibiscus fish, dengihagi, nekozame shark, and yadokari crab are shown, emphasizing the variety of sea creatures players can encounter. It also hints at events where you can help animals, like a turtle. The next page is a preview for the Nintendo 64 game Daikatana. It highlights the game's 3D action shooting elements and the inclusion of RPG-like growth features. The page details the game screen interface and explains various stats. These include Vitality, which reduces damage taken, Attack, indicating attack speed, Speed, showing player movement speed, Acro, representing jump power, and Power, which is player attack strength. Other stats mentioned are Armor, Health, Ammo, and Express. The descriptions also cover in-game elements like enemies, the cursor, items, and weapons. Again, the game was scheduled for release on March 31st and priced at 6,980 yen. This page previews the game Daikatana. Episode 1, titled 25th Century Mishima Fortress, is set in Japan in the 25th century where the hero, Miyamoto Hiro, is tasked with defeating Mishima Kage. The level is described as a fortress with computer-controlled enemies and robots. Episode 2, Remnos Ancient Greece, is set in ancient Greece. Hiro teams up with Mikiko and A1 to find the Daikatana sword and return to their original time period. The stage features ancient Greek-style architecture and enemies like armored skeletons. Magic weapons are also present. Episode 3, Middle Ages Norway, takes place in medieval Norway. Underground magma areas and snowy villages with stone buildings are described. The enemies are fantasy creatures like werewolves and dragons. Weapons like bows and crossbows are featured, fitting the medieval setting. Episode 4, 25th Century San Francisco, is set in 25th Century San Francisco, specifically Alcatraz Island. The location is Mishima's research facility. This episode features a mix of 25th Century and Japanese-style elements. Enemies include soldiers with modern weapons. The game involves collecting 7 fragments of the mirror, and the stage backgrounds include prisons and research facilities. The final showdown between Hiro and Mishima is set to occur in this episode. The weapons are described as laser-based, with simple guns also appearing in the prison area. The Hot Game Preview section features 4 upcoming N64 titles. Top Gear Hyperbike, a racing game, receives mixed reviews, praised for speed and course design, but criticized for lack of variety. Kirby 64. The Crystal Shards, an action game, is lauded for its easy difficulty, copy abilities, and fun minigames. Shigesato Itoi's #1 Bass Fishing Definitive Edition, a fishing simulation, caters to serious fishing fans with realistic elements, but may be too complex for beginners. Finally, Gauntlet Legends, an action RPG, shines in multiplayer, offering cooperative gameplay and easy-to-understand mechanics, despite a need for extra memory. This page is an advertisement for Pokémon strategy guides and related books. It heavily promotes strategy guides for the Game Boy games Pokémon Gold and Silver, including 2 versions, a map and story guide, and a Pokémon Encyclopedia guide. Both guides promise complete coverage for mastering the games. Additionally, the page advertises a Pocket Pikachu color book, also related to Pokémon Gold and Silver, and a strategy guide for the Nintendo 64 game Pokémon Stadium 2. Prices are listed for each book, highlighting them as Dengeki Nintendo 64 Special Editions. The 64DD Land Net online service launch is highlighted, with a focus on maximizing user enjoyment. This edition introduces communication features, Chibiko Chiko Dai Shugo, and upcoming software releases. Yahoo! Japan is recommended for information. Featured content includes the LAN Net disc service, the Stakara character collection game, Ida's Henpo Field with illustrations, and Derby Paradise Online, a horse racing prediction service. User feedback showcases positive experiences. Hattori Yoshihiro uses Brothers in Mail and browses Nintendo and Creatures sites. Hosoyama Makiko, a new internet user, enjoys browsing homepages and the bulletin board, though she's mindful of phone costs. A reminder is given to 64DD owners to complete their LANnet service application for a free first year. This page introduces the 64DD game Doshin the Giant, Liberation Front, which is described as an expansion to Doshin the Giant. It explains the game's unique disc-swapping mechanic, requiring players to switch between the Doshin and Liberation Front discs to progress. The page highlights a new element, the Chibiko, small human-like characters who are playable instead of Doshin. The goal is to gather these Chibiko, to infiltrate the World Doshin Expo 1996, and liberate captured giants. The article also briefly previews upcoming 64DD software, including a communication kit for the Mario Artist series, likely for Mario Paint 64, and Mario Artist Talent Studio, scheduled for late April. An F-Zero X expansion kit is also mentioned for late April, and Mario Artist Polygon Studio is slated for a June release. This page is a news article from May 2000, discussing Nintendo's business strategies and partnerships. It highlights Nintendo establishing a joint software development company with Dentsu, a major advertising agency, and investing in the convenience store chain Lawson. The article details 4 joint projects Nintendo is involved in. The first is Marigold Management, a venture with Recruit focused on creating game development environments, mentioning Hey You Pikachu. Next is Flagship, a partnership with Capcom and others that creates game scenarios, specifically for the Game Boy Color titles The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons, and Oracle of Ages. Then there's Maneki, a joint venture with Hudson to support third-party N64 software development, mentioning their support for Super Robot Wars 64. Finally, Mobile 21, a partnership with Konami, focuses on developing communication-based games for mobile phones, PHS devices, and the Game Boy, with future games potentially connecting to the GameCube. The article also includes a Q&A section with Nintendo, discussing their aim to release communication-bundled games by March 2001 through their new company SD Cube, and their intention to use Lawson stores as retail outlets for game products. Camelot, developers of Mario Golf 64, are working on a new RPG for the Game Boy Advance, aiming for a deeper RPG experience and considering utilizing the GBA's communication features. They are also planning to link the N64 and Game Boy versions of Mario Golf. Game rankings reveal the dominance of Game Boy titles, with Pokemon Silver and Gold topping the combined charts. Notable N64 games include Mario Party 2, Donkey Kong 64, and Custom Robo. The N64 chart itself is led by The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, followed by Power Pro's Baseball 2000, Shiren the Wanderer 2, the then unreleased Resident Evil 0, and Paper Mario. Konami has launched a mobile phone service for Powerful Pro Baseball, providing access to game data and player passwords. The page also features a screenshot from Mario Golf 64. This page announces upcoming events, including the Tokyo Game Show, which will feature the N64 game Biohazard Zero, Resident Evil 0, and a Game Boy event showcasing Pia-E Yukoso. A table lists expected N64 and Game Boy titles from various publishers, including Capcom's Biohazard Zero, Konami's GQ Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, Power Pro 64, and Hudson's Poison Mine Bomberman 2. Game previews include NP Picross, NP Volume 7 for Super Famicom with 240 puzzle problems, GB Puzzle Bobble, and GB Chase HQ, both for Game Boy and releasing on May 26th. Hudson is also developing games for the iMode mobile platform. Finally, the page previews the adventure game Kita-E to the North, a dating sim, and Pia-E Yukoso, which is also described as a dating sim. This page highlights various game-related news. There's information on the Game Boy game Zoku Zoku Heroes and its full changer peripheral, which lets players experience sensations from the game. A limited edition Pocket Pikachu Color Game Boy Color in clear blue and white is announced at Ito Yokado stores. The page also features news about the Card Hero trading card game based on the Game Boy title, with Series 1 Monster and Magic cards now available and more series planned. A new one-card battle game called Popon DR is introduced, alongside a Sakura-themed Game Boy Color. The perfect Chorokyu toy that transforms into land, sea, and air vehicles is previewed. Finally, there is information about Konami's Olympic game Ganbare Nippon Olympics 2000 coming to N64 and Game Boy, plus release date updates for N64's Gauntlet Legends and GB's vs Lemmings, Metaro 3, and Sakura Taisen GB Imperial Flower Troop are also mentioned as upcoming titles. The page also features a strategy guidebook for Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. This page of the manga Grandpa 64 shows a humorous series of panels related to Nintendo 64. In one panel, a boy shows off a t-shirt designed by a reader, and another panel depicts characters playing a modified Super Mario 64 DX, which was supposedly rewritten at a Lawson Store's Loppy terminal. Princess Peach and Toad appear in a panel reacting to the gameplay. Another scene features characters under cherry blossoms, with a boy and girl discussing the beauty of spring. Later, the character Link appears playing an ocarina. The manga also touches on the theme of student-teachers, and concludes with a panel referencing the success mode, likely from a baseball game, mentioning a working adult edition for continued gaming enjoyment even after entering society. The bottom text mentions graphics reminiscent of PS2 and N64 era, and the impact of older graphics on modern gaming. This page is a humor section called Shioman's Nest, featuring reader submissions and comic strips related to Nintendo 64 games. The page has various segments including Kirby's Ice, which is a comic strip, and other sections with titles like Mayor, Old Man, New Semester, and Serious. There are reader-submitted illustrations and comments. Some mention games like Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, Super Mario Bros. DX, and Jikyu Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, which is a Japanese baseball game. Readers have sent in artwork and humorous anecdotes related to their gaming experiences and characters inspired by N64 games. The bottom section is called Shioman 64, which seems to be the main title for this reader submission corner. This page is an advertisement for RPG Sukuru GB, a game creation tool for the Game Boy Color. The characters in the manga panels are excited about this new RPG creation software, highlighting how simple and easy it is to use compared to previous complicated tools. The ad mentions that players can create their own RPGs and share them with friends using a communication cable. It also features screenshots of the software interface showing options to create titles, maps, characters, monsters, and items, and an example of a game map created with the tool. Finally, there is a mention of an idea contest with prizes for creations made with the software. This page is advertising RPG Sukuru GB, a game creation tool for the Game Boy Color, allowing players to easily make their own RPGs. It highlights the simple creation process, from designing characters and dungeons to crafting maps and monsters. The game boasts a large capacity, supporting up to 72 types of terrain, 3 monsters in battle simultaneously, and 40 item types, with 115 possible items. Communication features are emphasized, allowing players to exchange game data, characters, and items with friends using a cable. It also promotes the TurboFile GB for extra save storage. The release date is set for March 17th at a price of 4,800 yen, and a Tagged Tsukuru contest is announced for user-created games. This page showcases the Nintendo 64 game Gauntlet Legends prominently. The advertisement highlights the excitement and fun of up to 4 players delving into dungeons in this 3D action RPG. It mentions that memory expansion is required for 3 or more players. Below are advertisements for 2 Game Boy Color titles. The first is Macross 7 Ginga no Heart wo Utawase Ro, a game based on the Macross 7 anime series. The second is Pocket Pro Yakyu, a professional baseball simulation game for the Game Boy Color. Both Game Boy Color titles are advertised as new releases and priced at 3,980 yen.